Hi, and welcome to Ann's Family Recipe. Today I'm using my leftover Easter ham to make ham loaf. Now, admittedly, ham loaf doesn't have the most glamorous name, but it is such an incredible meal. I don't know if you've ever tried it before. Maybe by the name you can tell that it's kind of going to be like a meatloaf, only we use ham and we're also going to use some ground pork. So this is a perfect way to use our leftover ham from Easter this past weekend. But you can make this any time of year. And it has a super sweet kind of sticky pineapple glaze on top. It is awesome. Now this recipe comes from my husband's grandmother, so I am so honored to be able to share this with you today. I have about a pound of my leftover Easter ham here that I just cubed up and put into my food processor. So I'm going to grind this down just until it's kind of like little crumbs. We don't want like a paste consistency, just little crumbles, and then we're going to mix that in with the ground pork. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret today. When I sat down with my husband's grandmother for her to share the recipe with me, she did not give me exact measurements. So we're somewhat winging it today, but what I'm doing is basing the ratios off of my mother-in-law's meatball recipe. So we have 2 pounds of our ground meats here, and we're going to add some eggs and breadcrumbs and some seasonings just to kind of bind it all together. In this large mixing bowl, I'm going to dump 1 cup of ground up cornflakes. So my husband's grandmother shared with me that she uses something called Kellogg's crumbs. I think that's what it's called. I think you can find it in a little box in the breadcrumb aisle. But I looked it up online and the ingredients are just cornflakes. So I just ground up some cornflakes that I already had on hand. It was probably about 2.5 cups of the dried cornflakes that ground down into 1 cup. So we're gonna add that in. And then to add a little moisture, I'm starting with 1/2 cup of milk. And we'll just let these cornflake crumbs kind of soak it up a little bit, and this will help bind the mixture together. I'm just gonna stir this up a little bit too, so everything gets coated. Okay, like I said, I wasn't given measurements, so I'm thinking, just looking at the texture of the breadcrumbs, or the cornflake crumbs, although to be honest, you could use breadcrumbs. You could also use crushed up saltine crackers too if you have those, whatever works. I'm gonna add a little bit more milk. So let me grab that and I'll add another splash just so these have a little bit more moisture. The ratio of my mother-in-law's meatballs is 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs and 1 egg per pound of meat. So I have 2 pounds of meat. I used 1 cup of my Kellogg's cornflake crumbs, and now I'm gonna add 2 eggs. Next, I'm going to add just about 1/4 cup of brown sugar. We don't need too much in the mixture, although I think it's nice to add a little bit of sweetness, but the topping also has some brown sugar in it. So I think it's gonna be awesome, that little bit of sweetness in the background. I am gonna add just a little pinch of salt and pepper, not too much salt because the ham is already pretty salty. And then lastly are our meats. I just bought 1 pound of ground pork, and my husband's grandmother said that she sometimes will buy a pork loin at the grocery store, and she has her own meat grinder, so she can grind all her own meats at home, which is so cool. But of course, you could also ask the butcher to do that at the store for you. So I'm gonna add this in. Oh, take this little paper off here. Here we go. And then our pound of ground ham. And now I'm just gonna use my hands to mix this all together. And I've been told that the mixture doesn't hold together quite as well as a regular meatloaf would, so you really just wanna pack it together so that it holds nice and tight. My husband and I especially really enjoy those crispy edges on the outside of a meatloaf. So today I'm gonna do sort of a free-form loaf in my 9 by 13 inch glass baking dish. I just sprayed this with baking spray and I'm gonna shape the loaf by hand. But of course you could also use like a regular traditional loaf pan that you would make banana bread in or something like that. Just spray it really well so that it comes out easily. But this will give us lots of extra crispy surface area. So I'm gonna make my loaf and then I'm gonna top it with this awesome glaze. So easy to make. It's just 1 8-ounce can of crushed pineapple. So it's just this little can, kind of looks like a tuna fish can. I found it in the canned fruits aisle. I didn't realize they made them that small, but it was the perfect amount. And then I added another 1/4 cup of brown sugar to this. So I'm just gonna spread this all over the top, and it's gonna make it nice and sticky and sweet and give it an awesome extra flavor. Oh, this smells so good. So hammy and nice and sweet. It's gonna be awesome. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees and I'm gonna bake this amazing looking ham loaf for about an hour. My ham loaf has finished baking in the oven, and when I checked it with the meat thermometer, it read at 170 degrees, which is perfect, just what we're looking for. It's going to be a little bit tricky to tell when the ham loaf is finished baking, just because the meat kind of retains that pink color. But the ground pork should get slightly more grayish in color, kind of like ground meat would once it's cooked. So I am so excited to give this a taste. I let it cool slightly just so it was easier to slice. Now I have my perfect piece here. Take a little bite. Oh, before I forget, I also wanted to mention that you could roll these into meatballs too and cook them that way. It would just be a slightly less amount of cooking time. Okay, here we go. Wow, that's so, so good. It tastes just like my husband's grandmother's ham loaf. Oh my gosh, okay, so it's this like awesome combination of salty and sweet. I love the pineapple glaze. I think that's kind of a unique twist. I was looking up some ham loaf recipes online and a lot of them had brown sugar and a little bit of vinegar and mustard, but I love the pineapple with that extra sweet taste. So, so good. Okay, I'm going in for a little more. Like I said, I made sort of a free-form meatloaf because I love that sticky, almost crusty exterior. I want more pineapple too. And I can tell that I didn't overmix it because it has this nice light fluffy texture. What a perfect way to reuse your Easter leftovers. I am going to link below to my mother-in-law's ham with honey gravy recipe, which I shared a few weeks ago. It'll be the perfect jumping off point to get you to this delicious ham loaf. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Ann's Family Recipe, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen, and I'll see you again soon with another family recipe. For the full recipe, check the description box below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for joining me in my kitchen.